I would like to welcome HOD of PGDT English, Dr. Vivek Joshi sir. Nextly, I would like to welcome all the faculty member and professor of PGDT English, Dr. Shilpa Atole ma'am, Dr. Pramod Javre sir, Dr. Vaibhav Masram sir, and Assistant Professor Atul Gavaskar sir. And last but not the least, all the students and participants. Today is our second session, and our speaker is Dilip sir, Assistant Professor of Dr. Khatri, Mahavidyalaya, Tukum, Chandrapur. Sir has teaching experience of 10 years. He has published 16 research papers, national and international journal, and attend 30 conferences. He is pursuing PhD on the topic Subaltern voice in the selected novel of Arundhati Roy. And now, for the further discussion, I would like to invite Assistant Professor Dilip sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Satyanarayan Gadam. Very good morning to all of you. Thank you for nice information, introduction about me. I am very thankful to Honorable Head of PGDT Department of English, Dr. Vivek Joshi sir, for giving me this opportunity to express my views regarding the very overriding topic subaltern studies. And I am very thankful to my beloved friend Atul Gavaskar sir, Vaibhav Misram sir, and other staff member also. So today I am going to discuss the topic subaltern studies as a post-colonial criticism. So let me share my screen first. Is my PPT visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I am clearly audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
So, as far as the topic of my today's discussion or presentation is subaltern studies as a post-colonial criticism. So, the main term here is that the post-colonial criticism. So, when we peep into the history of English literature, particularly, we broadly trace the legacy of British literature. After that, we have various the section of the literature like Commonwealth literature and other colonial, post-colonial, and all that. So, as far as the post-colonial criticism is concerned, and the most fundamental level, the post-colonial studies is an exercise in ethics. You know very well ethics. It is our humble duties, are very important duty of all the scholars, that they should have some knowledge about the post-colonial studies and how the post-colonial studies is applied to various texts to infer the various meanings. So, the post-colonial studies is an exercise in ethics, and the main agenda of this post-colonial studies is and has been the dismantling of the Eurocentric worldview, which colonialism has naturalized and which had in turn the marginalized numerous indigenous cultures and the various traditions. And the another agenda of post-colonial studies is to foreground the voice of oppressed and create condition at least within the academic institution so that the people subjugated by colonialism can be heard. And as far as if we consider this agenda of post-colonial studies, so the main agenda, particularly we can say in academic circle, is to give voice to the suppressed people, to give voice to the subjugated people. And I think the subaltern studies has given that much, we can say, the attempt to give the voice to the suppressed, to the subaltern. And that's why I'm going to discuss here the subaltern studies, how the subaltern studies is the source that we can give voice to the voiceless, we can give voice to the suppressed. They have not their own agencies, they have not their own voice. Their voices are not heard by the dominant group in the society. So, as far as the concept of subaltern, so subaltern studies is the name prominently given to uh, the group of the edited books. In this particular title, the near about 12 books were published, and these books to this initial means their motto was to only publish 3 books regarding the subaltern concepts or subaltern theme in the history. But later on, the various scholars were joined, and ultimately they could publish 12 books on subaltern studies. So this name was given to that publication, and a group of the writer who were engaged in publishing this subaltern, history books, keeping in mind the subaltern themes. So this particular term subalterns has been taken from various, we can say the if we peep into the meaning of the word subaltern, we will come to know that the subaltern stand for the inferior rank. Yeah, this meaning was gained in late 1970 particularly, but Middle Ages, the subaltern stand for the serf, the farmer, the peasant, and then in 1770 that term meant the subordinate, hence the lower rank of officer in the military. But as far as the subaltern studies is concerned, they adopted this term not as a officer of inferior rank. They adopted this term from the Gramscian sense. So who was Gramsci? Antonio Gramsci, he was Italian Marxist, best known for his elaborating on the concept of hegemony, and the founder of Italian Communist Party in 1921. He was imprisoned by fascists in 1926 and spent remainder of his life under arrest. While in prison, despite the poor health, he continued to study and write the prison notebook. So in that prison notebook, he was to address the working class. He was to study in the prison, and he was to just skip the censor of the authorities of the prison. That's why he used the subaltern term to refer to the working class in Soviet Union and who were the subject to hegemony of ruling class. The subaltern classes may include peasant, worker, and other groups who has been denied access to hegemonic power. So this particular term, subaltern, has been taken from the Gramsci's Marxist theory to by the subaltern study groups. So as far as the main proponent of this, first of all, I must clear the idea that the subaltern study is basically the trend of historiography. You might know the historiography. Historiography is the branch of history writing. There you have to learn how to interpret history, how to interpret various the incident happen in the history while writing your history. So as far as this particular group, the subaltern study group, they were merely, I mean, basically the history writers. They have, because they were skeptical about the various history writing prevailing or present in particular Indian context. There were Marxist historiography, there was Cambridge historiography, I means colonial historiography, nationalist bourgeois historiography. So these were the various historiography present at the time of 1970, 1980. Then they were not satisfied with the history writing of the bourgeois nationalist or colonialist or the Marxist historian. That's why they thought at that time we should write history from the point of view of the people, because prior to them, the history writer from the school of Cambridge school or colonial school or Marxist school, they never take into consideration the politics of the people. That's why they thought at that time we should consider people, the masses, at the center of the history, and we should write history for them to give them right. So as far as the Antonio Gramsci is concerned, he gave the term subaltern, and particularly he used that term subaltern to address the working class people in Soviet unions who were subject to the hegemony of the ruling class. So as far as hegemony is concerned, we should have some glimpses about the term hegemony. So what is hegemony? For example, it is, we can say, the assertion of power, hegemony. There is uh, two methods to assert your power on the people. First method is, for example, I have gun and I can compel you to obey my order. I can terrorize you to accept.
Yes.
12:30 पर्यंत फोन नका करू, मी कामात आहे. Okay. So I was discussing the term hegemony, which was popularized by Antonio Gramsci in 1920. So according to Antonio Gramsci, there are two ways of asserting or exerting your authority over the population. And first one is the coercion, means by terrorizing the people, you can assert your power or your authority over the population. But there is another mode of asserting your authority over the population, that is hegemony. So I had given example, I am repeating it. So when we are able to get the, we can say, consent of the people, that whatever I am doing, whatever my worldviews are, that are for your good, whatever I am doing for myself, my good, that same thing is very profitable to you. And if I am very much successful in making people believe that concept, whatever I am doing, that is good for you, then people will willingly follow my order. People will willingly follow my norms, my values, my institutions, and my worldviews, and they follow willingly. That's why there will not be any problem that they will disobey me. So this is another way of asserting your authority over the population. So you can hegemony operates through the consent as much as coercion, rather than relying solely on the force to maintain control. The hegemonic power gains legitimacy and acceptance by convincing others that its dominance is beneficial and inevitable. This can involve the dissemination of ideologies, manipulation of symbols and narratives, and co-option of the post-colonial movement and the leaders. So, as far as the subaltern study is concerned, they got this term, their core of their thinking. So the history writing, right from the Cambridge School of History Writing to bourgeois nationalist elite historiography and Marxist historiography, they fail to take into account the politics of the people. They take into account the agency of the people, the agency of the masses. They could only record, or they could only give prominence to the upper classes. We can say the elite classes, the dominant group in the society. How the dominant group always try to incorporate the politics of the people, the motto of the people in their meta narrative. So in their historiography, there is no space for the common people, the masses, the real maker of their own history. When we peep into the historiography of the nationalist historiography or Cambridge School of Historiography, there is no space for the common masses. There is no space for the subjugated. That's why subaltern study concentrated on the politics of the people. As far as Cambridge School of Historiography is concerned, they just praises the school regional and popularist perspective, but criticize their reliance on the British documentation. Why they? Because the sloppy use of social science model, downplaying of ideology, and their main motto of the Cambridge School of Historiography was the study of British, to approach the study of British Empire from the imperialist point of view. It emerged speciality at the University of Cambridge in 1960 because the British themselves consider as we can say the savior of the colonized people. That was their motto, to enlighten the barbaric countries. They had to enlighten people. They had to make the Indian people good as a human being. That was their motto. And as far as Cambridge School is concerned, they only emphasize the we can say colonized point of view in their history writing. Most of the record, as we can say, for example, the records of we can say the 1835's the Macaulay particularly. He says without means knowing any language of the India like Persian or Greek, he utterly said that the one book sale in particularly of England will surpass the all over knowledge of Indian subcontinent. So that was, he even never knew about the Persian or Hebrew or other Sanskrit language in India. But instead of that, he proclaimed that the one bookshelf of England could surpass the all over knowledge system of India. That was the such were the observation of the historiography of Cambridge School, and they always try to undermine uh, the colonized people in their history. They only praise their British rule, how British rule or British Empire is important for the well-being of the colonized people. And there was another school of historiography, that was nationalistic historiography. And in nationalistic historiography, they follow the whims of Cambridge School, because they were totally means we can say influenced by the way of thinking of the Cambridge School. They always wanted to make the India as a nation state. They try to incorporate the politics of the masses into the meta narrative, like the Congress, we can say the Congress movement, the Congress party in the freedom struggle movement. So they just focused on the Congress party. They just focused on the heroes like Pandit Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, and others. They never take into consideration the politics of the people. They consider politics of the people and incident like Sauri Saura as a pre-political, as a we can say spontaneous, without thinking, without unpremeditated attempt to just throw the government away. They just try to incorporate the politics of the people into meta narrative, nationalistic history. There is another historiography, that is Marxist historiography. They just divide the population into two classes, working class and the upper class, and they just wanted the whole whatever happened in India after the advent of British rule in India till the independence of the India. That whole attempt were to form the Soviet we can say the socialist government in India. So they never try to peep into real masses or politics of the real people, their own problems, their own motives behind their rebellion. So subaltern historiographer or subaltern historiographer, particularly Ranjit Gua and other, they were dissatisfied with all the record maintained by these historiographies like Cambridge School, Nationalist School, and Marxist School. They thought there should be the history writing who could take into consideration the politics of the people, the politics of the masses who were engaged in the freedom struggle movements. Okay, change the slide. So when so particularly this subaltern study group, this is name given to the books published, 12 book published in this banner, that the whole group of scholars like Ranjit Guan and other were the historians, particularly these historical studies, subaltern studies. So in their manifesto or in their proclamation, they said the historiography of Indian nationalism has for a long time been dominated by elitism. They just bifurcate Indian population into two groups, elite and subaltern. And colonialist elitism and bourgeois nationalist elitism. The both type of historiography was said to derive from the ideological discourse of the British rule in India. Despite their differences, both share the certain thing in common, and most important of this was the absence of politics of the people from their accounts. Whatever accounts they have written in their historiography, it is totally bereft of the politics of the people. I will discuss how the people's politics was center to the various revolt. In this view, there was now the urgent requirement for the setting the record straight by viewing the history from the point of view of the subaltern classes. This standpoint as well as the politics of the people was crucial because it constituted the autonomous domain which neither originated from the elite politics nor did its existence depend on the latter. So whatever the rebellion happened at the part of the masses, they were self-oriented. They were leader of themselves. There was no one charismatic leader to provoke them to engage in some rebellion. The peoples of the politics differed from the elite politics in several crucial ways. For example, its roots lay in traditional organization of the people, such as caste, kinship network, tribal solidarity, and territoriality. So, as far as if we take into consideration the Indian freedom struggle, the one party, Congress party, come in front of our eyes and various heroes, national heroes. But when we study the various event in the history of Indian history, like Sauri Chaura and other incident that were without the presence of the national heroes, still they revolt at themselves. And just like, for example, the latest movie that we have observed or we have watched, Triple R, there we see the heroes. He revolted against the British only because his niece was abducted by them, and another hero revolted only because his father was very much means shocked by the British treatment to the common people. There were, for example, I just took that only for the sake of example, but there were various revoltees in our Indian history, like by Veer Baburao Shedmake and other like them. Like there were various heroes in the history. They were not mobilized by the national heroes. They took their own problems and revolt against the British colonialism. So they were fragmented. They were fragmented into caste, their creed, their tradition, and various. But as far as nationalistic party like Congress, they were organized. Another difference is there between the politics of the people and subaltern and the politics of the elite. The elite mobilization were vertical, means there was one national hero and the masses were the follower. But as far as the people's politics are the politics of the subaltern, that were horizontal. Everybody engaged in that particular revolt were responsible for their whims. Thirdly, the elite mobilization was legalistic and pacifist. They never tried to exert. The subaltern mobilization was relatively violent. So we have seen the the instance of Chauri Chaura movement and other, that the Congress party and their leader were so moderate. They never tried to adopt the method of violence. They believe in non-violence. But as far as the politics are the subaltern politics is concerned, they were prone to violence. And fourthly, the elite mobilization was more cautious and controlled, whereas the subaltern mobilization was more spontaneous. So this is the basic difference between the subaltern politics and politics of the elite that were pointed out by the subaltern studies. So as we study the subaltern study and 12 volume of the subaltern study, we can bifurcate that subaltern study into two parts, two phases. There is first phase and second phase. So first phase was the first phase consists of the concern with subaltern and the lower exploited classes, how subaltern were subjugated by the dominant classes, how they were exploited by the elite, Indian elite, as well as the British colonialist. Criticism the elite. They just divide the population into two parts. The first part, the elite, and other is the masses. And influence in the first phase, there was influence on the Gramsci in their study. And there is another part, that is second phase. That phase is called the post-colonial discourse. That phase is called discourse analysis. So in first phase, they always focus their attention how the politics of the people was different from the elite politics. So I can cite some influence of the just as Saeed Amin in the study of popular perception of Mahatma Gandhi says that in Gandhi as a Mahatma, the deriving evidence from the Gorakhpur district in the eastern UP, he shows that the popular perception and action were completely at variance with the Congress later perception of the Mahatma. Although the mechanism of the spread of the Mahatma message was rumors, so obviously the Mahatma Gandhi when took whole control of that nationalist movement. So there were at that time there were not so much the instrument like today that we can just in within a minute we can speed our video. So the main source of the spreading the information about the Mahatma was the rumor, rumor, and there was an entire philosophy of economy and politics behind it. So the masses in India always consider Mahatma Gandhi as a Mahatma and magical power of Mahatma and charismatic figure who can do whatever, who can punish and reward anyone with his magical power. Means that people in India started to consider Mahatma Gandhi as a god, as a magical woman, as a magical man who can do anything. So as far as the incident of the Chauri Chaura incident in 1982, when his name was invoked to burn the police post and to kill the policemen and loot the market. So obviously that message was not given by or spread by the Mahatma Gandhi himself, but people means infer or people get the conclusion or people get the message from the rumor that Mahatma Gandhi would have or might have said in this way. That's why we have to kill the policemen. Means I want to say here that without the presence of the charismatic figure, the people could acted by themselves using their own whims, using their own we can say the logic, and they become violent. And that the event of Chauri Chaura according to that event of Chauri Chaura incident took place according to Sayyidin. There is another incident like Sumit Sarkar. Stephen Cunningham accounts of the Quit India in Bihar and Eastern United Province, elite and subaltern domains were clearly defined and distinct from each other. Thus, the Great Revolt of 1942 consisted of elite nationalist uprising combined with the subaltern rebellion. Their motives and demands were different. As far as the uprising or revolt of 1942 is concerned, Stephen Cunningham says the elite politician or elite nationalist had their another motto, as well as the subaltern masses or subaltern has their own motto. There was difference between their fighting. So those engaged in the elite nationalist uprising sought to protest against the government repression of the Congress, obviously, and they demanded the granting of independence to India, Quit India movement. So that was the motto of Congress party, that they were harassed by the British government and they wanted independence from the British force to exert their authority over all over India. That was motto of Indian Congress. And as far as the subaltern point of view is concerned, in contrast, those involved in the subaltern rebellion acted in pursuit of the relief from the privation. They fought for their own cause because they were suffering from the scarcity of food. They were living in the misery because of the British rule. That's why they were engaged or they engaged themselves in that Quit India movement. So it is clear here that according to Stephen Cunningham, the freedom struggle movement in which they try to incorporate all the politics of the people, and the nationalistic historiography try to record it without any consultation to the subaltern classes. They only try to record the history from the point of view of the elite. But as far as the ground reality is different, and that ground reality has been recorded by the subaltern historiographer by approaching there, by collecting some material from the legend and other sources, and they try to give the real history of the real point of view of the politics of the people. Their mottos were different from elite nationalistic, and they fought for their own cause. As far as the 1942 event is concerned, Quit India movement is concerned, the elite nationalists fought for to relieve themselves from the suppression of the British forces, and that's why they demanded the independence. But as far as the lower classes or subaltern classes is concerned, they fought for to relieve themselves from the scarcity of the food, from the relieve themselves from the privation, relieve themselves from the misery in which they were living. So this is different point of view that we could find in the study of subaltern literature. So there is another phase, and that is the discourse analysis. So we can shift here, we can cite, or we can say that the real post-colonial studies began. So they, when they were unable to find out the various record about the Indian, the politics of the people, they had to study the material. They have to study the nationalistic historiography against their grain. So there comes the discourse analysis of Michel Foucault. Then we can say Edward Said. There generally comes the post-colonial criticism. So when they were unable to find out the real history of the people, they try to study the record already in existence with another point of view. They studied that literature against the grain by applying the deconstruction method. So as far as discourse is concerned, in any society, there are checks and filters, and which allow certain utterances as accepted and other as not. For example, as far as discourse is concerned, I want to cite an example from Gayatri Chakravarty's Spivak. He says, in a society where dominant power structure equates the reproductive heterosexuality with the normalcy, it is very difficult, if not altogether impossible, to generate discourse regarding the right of homosexual. Gayatri Chakravarty Spivak says, in the society where heterosexuality is normal, and in such society, if anyone is demanding their their security, like homosexual is demanding their security, their discourse there will not be accepted by the society. They will be banned. So he says it is very difficult, if not together impossible, to generate discourse regarding the right of homosexual. So the position of the homosexual in society underlined by reproductive heteronormativity and reproductive sexuality, in such society, homosexual take the position of subaltern. In the society where heterosexuality is a normal, and in such society, if we consider the homosexual, they become obviously subaltern, because they cannot raise their voice, because their voice will not be heard by the authority, because their sexuality is considered abnormal. So as far as the discourse is concerned, the discourse is acceptable if that discourse is supported by the power. Knowledge is the knowledge generation by the dominant group is acceptable if the subaltern group is exerting their power, and if they are expressing their voice will not be heard. So what is the duty of the subaltern studies in such scenario. So, as a subaltern critic, we have to study any text against the grain. So, as far as Gayatri Chakravarti Suyok is concerned, his most famous essay, Can Subaltern Speak?, in which he says, subaltern can't speak. It is very important question. How subaltern can't speak? Are they dumb? Are deep? No. So, according to Gayatri Chakravarti's PO, the voices are meaningful utterances is when they are acceptable by the society. So if any mad person is saying something, society will not accept his utterances because they are considering that person as mad. So as far as subaltern is concerned, or subaltern are concerned, they have not their own voice. As far as she has given the example of sati, the ritual sati, in which the widows of Hindu widows mount themselves on the funeral pyre of their husband. This is ritual, and sati as an entity who is burning herself on the pyre of her husband. So Gayatri Chakravarti Piyok says, if we consider Sati as a subaltern, she can't speak, or her voice is not heard by the people because that Sati as a ritual is acceptable in the society, in the patriarchal society, and people force her to mount herself on the funeral pyre of her husband. So, if we consider Sati as a subaltern and as academician, as I am, if I consider myself as an elite because I am not subaltern, because I am going to help the subaltern, I am going to give voice to the subaltern, and then obviously when my voice is heard, then I cease to be subaltern. When the subaltern's voice is heard, they cease to be subaltern. Means they will not remain as a subaltern. They will come into category of the elite. So as an academician, as a research scholar, your voice will be heard regarding the condition of the subaltern through the media or through the publication. That's why if anybody wants to give voice to the sati, when he will go and just felicitate some condition for the survival of the sati, he will raise the voice like the social reformer in that contemporary era. Gayatri Chakravarti Suyok says, when you are raising your voice for the betterment of the subaltern condition of that particular entity or particular person, you are not raising your voice for the sake of that subaltern, but you are raising your voice to express yourself. Another example I want to say that in 1829, Lord Bentinck passed the law banning the sati ritual in India. So Gayatri Chakravarti Suyok says, the Lord Bentinck passed the law banning the sati ritual. Means he was there to protect the brown woman from the brown man because that ritual was acceptable in patriarchal society. Means in Hindu culture particularly. So he was to, means that Lord Bentinck was to save the brown woman from the brown man. Means there is role of white man saving brown woman from the brown man. So that Lord Bentinck or colonial rule become the savior of the brown woman. Means when he passes the law of banning the sati rituals, he himself became the voice, not for the subaltern, but for his own view, because he is just spreading the another discourse that the only British rule can save the brown woman from the brown man. Only British rule can enlighten the India. That's why British rule is important in India. So whenever we want to raise our voice to the betterment of the subaltern classes, we do it for our own sake, not for the subaltern. Then as a subaltern, as a elite, then what is the duty of the subaltern scholar? Then she says that scholar must learn the condition of the subaltern. Whatever you want to do something for the subaltern, you have to just go to them and just take into consideration all their whims, their desire, whether they want improvement or not. Everything should be learned from subaltern. After that, you can do something for them and raise voice for them. So this was my explanation from my point regarding the subaltern study, and there are some veteran professors, they can suggest me something over which. And then as far as this particular subaltern study as a post-colonial criticism, so this post-colonial criticism, subaltern study has basically two phases. In first phase, they wanted to bifurcate the society into two portions, that is elite and subaltern, and they just criticize the point of view of the elite and how elite dominated the whole masses of the society, and how the people's politics or politics of the masses were undermined by the meta narrative of the nationalistic elites. And another phase, second phase, in which they turn to discourse analysis when they were unable to find the records of the masses of the people, we can say the revolts of the people, the history of the people, or politics of the people. They try to study the record written by the bourgeois nationalists against their grain by applying the post-colonial criticism. So I think in which the subaltern study do the most important work, and it is most important field of study. Anybody wants to just try to do research in this area can do, and it is most well is interesting, and various knowledge have been gathered in this particular study, and you will get new insight into the various source of the knowledge. You will get new insight, you will get new aptitude by observing any phenomena, and various type of improvement you can do in yourself in your research. So importance of subaltern study in post-colonial criticism, this is my last slide. The subaltern study has emerged as a crucial framework with the post-colonial criticism due to its the deconstruction of dominant narrative. That's I have been explaining since beginning, that how they try to dismantle the Eurocentric perspective, how they try to just deconstruct the bourgeois nationalistic politics by studying their material. Empowerment of the subaltern voices, by studying the subaltern various character. As far as my topic of my PhD is the subaltern voices in the novella Parundhati Rai, in which I have taken to means she has only written two novels. One is The God of Small Thing and another The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. So while studying that, or while reading that novels, I come across various characters like in God of Small Thing, the Amu, then Mamachi. Though something we, as far as the traditional historiography concerns, they only consider the untouchables or suppressed classes as they are suffering from the various mode like caste class. But as far as subaltern study is concerned, the any persons who has been denied agency is subaltern, who has been denied voice is subaltern. As far as the Mamachi, the character of Mamachi in the God of Small Thing is concerned, she belongs to the upper class Christian family, Syrian Christian family, like Brahmin. But she herself was dominated by her husband. she was not able to raise her voice against the abduction, against the domination of her own husband. So there are some such type of various parameter through which we can study the various characters in the novel. So this is the way that you can do your research. And another is the critique of hegemonic structure that we have discussed while explaining the term hegemony, expansion of historical inquiry by questioning the records of the nationalistic history as well as Marxist history and Cambridge historiography, the engagement with intersectionality, relevance to the contemporary issues. These are various factors that can help us to examine any phenomena through the point of view of the subaltern. So this was my explanation regarding this particular study. Once again, if you have any queries, you can ask. I am once again head of the PGTT department of Gondwana University, Gadchiroli, Dr. Vivek Joshi sir, for giving me this opportunity to share my views. I am also very thankful to Professor, my beloved friend Atul Gavaskar sir, then uh, Abhay Meshram sir, then other faculty members for giving me this opportunity to express myself. Thank you very much. If you have any queries, you are feel free, please feel free to ask. And if there are some suggestion, you can give. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir has discussed on the topic of subaltern studies as a protocolonial criticism about the agenda, concept, emergency theory, and hegemony, historiography, the Cambridge School, to career of the subaltern study. So, thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. Really, we learn a lot from this session. If anyone have any queries, you can unmute yourself and ask question, or you can drop your question to chat box. Anyone questions?
I think no one has questions.
Satyanarayan.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Hello. Continue.
Okay, sir. No one questions. And thank you everyone for joining this session and give me opportunity for hosting today's session and connecting with me. Now I hand over this session to Sonali Madavi to vote of thanks.
Mike.
Good afternoon to each one of you. Present. I am Sonali Madavi, PhD of English, Gondwana University, Gadchiroli. We are reached to the end of today second session of Noel series 4.0 2024. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude our chairperson of, of the program, Dr. Joshi sir, organized a very beautiful and effective session for us. I'm extremely thankful to today's chief guest and speaker, Assistant Professor Dilip sir, Dr. Khatri Mahavidyalaya, Tukum, Chandrapur, for giving us a very thoughtful and enlightening guidance and overviews of subaltern studies as a post-colonial criticism. Assistant Professor Dilip sir have a very good information about subaltern studies as a post-colonial criticism, agency of British literary concept of subaltern and emergency theory of subaltern. So thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. I would like to extend my gratitude to the PGTT of English faculty organizing team of NOET series 4.0, Dr. Vaibhav Masram sir, Dr. Silpa Atwale ma'am, Dr. Pramod Javre sir, and Assistant Professor Atul Gavaskar sir. For wonderful arrangement, I would like to thank all the participants of today's second session for attending and your cooperation and being the major part to make this session successful. I would also like to thank today's host Satyanarayan Gedam for amazing hosting today's session. I will also thank everyone for giving me this opportunity to vote of thanks. Last but not the least, I appreciate and thank you everyone for your participation to make this noise session successful. And here I declare the session is over. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, wait, sir.